There's a phrase buried in your Toyota's service manual that has quietly killed more transmissions than bad driving ever will. 3 words: filled for life. Sounds reassuring, doesn't it? Like Toyota engineered something so good, it never needs touching again. And the service advisor at the dealership will smile and tell you the same thing when you ask about it at 90,000 miles. Here's what nobody says out loud. That phrase was never about your car's life. It was about the warranty's life. And the moment those miles run out, the clock starts ticking on a repair bill that costs more than the car's worth. The strange part is that Toyota builds engines and transmissions that will genuinely run past 300,000 miles. That reputation is real. It's earned, but it was never built on doing nothing. It was built on a handful of small, cheap, deeply unglamorous habits that almost nobody performs anymore because there's no money in telling you about them. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what those habits are, why the shop has every reason to stay quiet about them, and the one fluid most Toyota owners have never changed even once. The one that decides whether your Toyota dies at 150,000 miles or keeps going long enough to become somebody else's first car. Let's get into it. Number 1, the schedule inside the schedule. 10,000 miles between oil changes. That's the number Toyota prints, and that's the number most owners live by. Here's what almost nobody does. Turn a few pages further into that same book, past the chart everyone stops at, and there's a second schedule. Toyota calls it special operating conditions. Trips under 5 miles, idling for long stretches, stop-and-go traffic, dust, towing, hard cold, hard heat. Under that schedule, the interval isn't 10,000, it's 5. Now be honest about your actual week. School run, grocery store, 20 minutes of crawling on the way in, 20 on the way home, cold mornings where the engine barely gets warm before you're parking again. That's not some extreme edge case. That's how most people on Earth drive. So most Toyota owners are running the wrong schedule. And nobody at the service counter is going to walk them back to page 2 because the 10,000 mile number is half the reason they bought a Toyota to begin with. Here's why it actually matters. The 0W20 your engine drinks is thin on purpose. It flows fast when the engine's cold, protects at startup, helps your fuel economy. But thin oil runs a smaller margin for error. Push it past its life on short, cold trips, where moisture and unburned fuel never cook out, and it starts to break down into something closer to varnish. And the first thing that varnish attacks isn't the bearings. It's the variable valve timing system, running pressurized oil through screens and passages narrower than a pencil lead. Toyota knows exactly how that story ends. There was an era, roughly 97 through 2002, when their engines gained a sludge reputation ugly enough that Toyota extended coverage on it after the complaints piled up. The engineering got better. The physics never changed. Sludge doesn't warn you. It closes those passages a micron at a time silently until a light comes on, and the estimate has 4 digits on it. Number 2, the drive that quietly kills Toyotas. 2 Corollas roll into the same shop with the same reading on the odometer, 140,000 each. One gets a compression test that looks factory fresh. The other has a lifter tick, a rusted-through muffler, and an oil pan full of something the color of coffee with milk in it. Same badge, same mileage, completely different lives. The difference isn't how far they drove, it's how they drove it. And the killer isn't the long haul, it's the short one. Here's what happens in the first 4 or 5 minutes after a cold start. The engine runs deliberately rich, dumping in extra fuel because cold metal and cold air don't atomize gasoline properly. Some of that extra fuel slips past the rings and lands in your oil. At the same time, combustion produces water vapor, and inside a cold engine, that vapor condenses instead of evaporating out. So you're brewing fuel and water into your oil, which is fine, completely normal, because a proper drive gets the oil past 200 degrees and cooks both of them straight out. Park before that happens, and nothing cooks out. It just sits there diluting your oil, thinning it, feeding the acids that eat bearing surfaces. Do it twice a day for 3 years, and you have an engine that was never once given the chance to clean itself. It's not just the engine either. Your exhaust makes water too, and when the pipe never gets hot enough to steam it off, it puddles in the muffler and rots it from the inside out. Your catalytic converter needs serious heat to actually convert anything. Below that, it's just an expensive restriction. And your battery, which just handed the starter a few hundred amps, needs real driving time to get that charge back. 5 minutes doesn't do it. It never did. The fix costs nothing. Once or twice a week, give it a real run. 20 minutes, some sustained speed, let everything reach temperature and stay there. That single habit is the reason some Toyotas read like new at 200,000 miles and others sound tired at 80. Number 3, the fluid that expires on a calendar. Everything else on your car wears out by distance. Brake fluid is the one that dies by date. Here's the thing almost no owner knows. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. That's a technical word for something simple. It pulls water out of the air, not through a leak, through the rubber hoses themselves and through the vent in the reservoir cap, molecule by molecule, whether the car is being driven or sitting in a driveway for a year. Fresh DOT3 boils somewhere around 400 degrees. Let it soak up 3% water, which takes roughly 2 to 3 years of ordinary life. And that number falls to about 284. Now think about what boiling actually means in a brake system. Fluid doesn't compress. That's the entire principle your brakes run on. Vapor compresses beautifully. So you come down a long grade or ride the brakes in traffic on a hot day, and the fluid near the calipers flashes to vapor, and your pedal goes to the floor with nothing behind it. That's the dramatic version. The expensive version is quieter. That same water sits inside the ABS module, the calipers, the wheel cylinders, and corrodes them from the inside where no inspection will ever see it. Pistons seize in their bores. The ABS actuator, a sealed unit packed with valves and passages, starts sticking. Replacing one of those isn't a brake job. It's a 4-figure line item on a car that stopped fine yesterday. And the fluid gives you a tell. Fresh, it's nearly clear, straw-colored. Pop your reservoir cap right now. If what's in there looks like dark tea or old motor oil, it has been in your car far too long. A flush costs less than a tank of fuel. Most Toyotas want it every 3 years or so. Check your own book, because the interval is printed there, and it's printed in years, not miles. Number 4, pink coolant and the part nobody warns you about. That pink fluid in your Toyota is genuinely good stuff. Toyota Super Long Life Coolant. And the name isn't marketing. The first fill is rated somewhere around 10 years or 100,000 miles. Every interval after that, roughly 5 years or 50,000, which creates a strange problem. 10 years is long enough that most owners will never think about coolant once. Not a single time. And the manual quietly tells you a car that old still needs it, changed at half the interval going forward. So what actually degrades? Not the antifreeze. Ethylene glycol doesn't wear out. It's the additive package riding along with it. The corrosion inhibitors, the stuff whose entire job is protecting aluminum. And your Toyota's engine block, cylinder head, radiator, and heater core are largely aluminum. When those inhibitors deplete, the coolant slowly turns mildly acidic. It stops protecting and starts attacking. You get electrolysis eating pinholes in the radiator, corrosion flaking loose and clogging the heater core, which is why the heat goes lukewarm in old cars, and a head gasket sitting in a chemistry it wasn't designed for. Now the part almost nobody connects. On a lot of Toyota 4-cylinders, the water pump is driven by the timing chain and lives inside the engine, behind the cover. It doesn't fail with a puddle in the driveway. It fails from the inside with abrasive corrosion chewing the impeller and the seal. And getting to it means pulling the front of the engine apart. That's a job measured in hours and hundreds of dollars, caused by a fluid change that costs almost nothing. One more thing, and it's the mistake I see most. Do not top a Toyota off with the green stuff from the gas station. Different chemistry. Mixing them can gel the whole system into sludge that plugs the radiator and the heater core solid. If it's pink going in, keep it pink. Number 5, the carbon you can't see. Your Toyota's iridium plugs are rated for 120,000 miles. Owners hear that and file spark plugs under Not My Problem. They're right about the plugs. They're wrong about what's happening around them. Older engines sprayed fuel into the intake port, so every intake valve got washed with gasoline on every stroke. Gasoline is a solvent. Those valves clean themselves, for free, forever. Direct injection moved the injector into the cylinder. Better power, better economy. And now nothing ever touches the back of that valve again. Meanwhile, the PCV system is routing oil vapor from the crankcase into the intake, where it drifts across hot metal and bakes on. layer on layer, until deposits visibly choke the port and keep the valve from sealing flat. You get no warning light for this. Just a car that feels slightly duller than it used to. A rough cold start. Maybe a misfire code that makes no sense because the plugs and coils test perfectly fine. Toyota's advantage here is real. A lot of their engines run port and direct injection specifically to keep washing those valves. Plenty don't. If yours is direct injection only, this is happening right now. What actually helps is boring. Real drives at real load so it burns hot, top-tier fuel to keep the injectors from coking, and a PCV valve checked at the interval. A stuck one floods the intake with vapor. Everything sold in a bottle is optimism. The only real fix is walnut blasting the ports by hand with the intake manifold off. Number 6. The rot nobody looks for. Toyota's engines are famous for outliving everything, which is exactly the problem. They'll happily keep running inside a body that's dissolving underneath them. This isn't a small footnote in Toyota's history either. Frame corrosion on Tacomas, Tundras, and Sequoias got serious enough that Toyota ran extended warranty programs and bought some trucks back outright. Frames rusted through, on a vehicle whose engine was fine. Here's what's actually eating it. Road salt in winter is the obvious one, but salt air near the coast does the same work slower. And the enemy isn't water. It's water that can't leave. Mud packed behind the wheel arches. Leaves rotting in the cowl. Blocked drain holes in the rocker panels and the bottoms of the doors. Holding a puddle against bare metal for months. Rust doesn't start on the paint you can see. It starts on the seams, the pinch welds, the underside of the floor pan, the suspension mounting points. Places you'd only find by getting under the car with a flashlight, which almost nobody does until something fails in inspection. The prevention is genuinely this simple. Wash the underside after salt season, not just the paint. Poke the drain holes at the bottom of every door and rocker clear with a piece of wire. They clog with dirt and nobody ever checks them. Pull the packed mud out from behind the wheel liners. And once get underneath with a light and actually look at the frame rails and the rear spring hangers. An engine can be rebuilt. A rotted frame ends the car. Number 7, filled for life. Here's the one I opened with. Somewhere in your paperwork, your automatic transmission fluid is described as filled for life. Some Toyotas don't even have a dipstick. The transmission is sealed, with a level check plug underneath and no invitation to look inside. The phrase is technically true. It's just that nobody defines whose life they meant. Transmission fluid isn't like engine oil. It doesn't get diluted with fuel or contaminated with combustion byproducts. It dies from heat. Every shift, every torque converter lockup, every crawl through traffic on a hot day cooks it. And the friction modifiers, the additives that let a clutch pack grab smoothly instead of slipping, break down under that heat. The fluid goes from red to brown, and it starts to smell burnt. Meanwhile, the clutch material it's shedding circulates through valve bodies with passages you could barely fit a hair through. By the time you feel it, a shudder at light throttle, a flare between gears, a shift that lands harder than it used to, it's already too late to fix with fluid. That's why the shop shrugs. A rebuild on a modern Toyota automatic runs into thousands. A drain and fill runs into 200. If your car has towed, sat in traffic, or lived somewhere hot, look at the severe schedule in your book, not the headline one, and do it as a simple drain and fill at the correct fluid temperature. That temperature window is the whole procedure, and it's exactly why so many shops would rather not touch it at all. None of this is exotic. It's a second page in a manual, a longer drive once a week, and a few fluids that mechanics genuinely don't make money reminding you about. That's the whole secret. Toyota built you an engine that can go 300,000 miles. Whether it gets there was never really up to Toyota.